I've noticed a lot of Christians who are being held back from God using them and seeing God move in their lives. And it's not about sins, and it's not about weakness, and it's not about their circumstances. In fact, in 2 Corinthians, the Apostle Paul says that God's strength is made abundantly clear in our weaknesses. What's actually going on, I think, is that there are some thoughts and some mental patterns that sound spiritual, that sound churchy, but are actually getting in the way of God using people for his kingdom. And I have 3 of them that I'd like to point out today. The first spiritual sounding thought that gets in the way is, I'm not ready. I need more equipping is a phrase that needs to be deleted from your lexicon because it's code for, I'm scared. You do need to read because you need to know some things, and you do need to train, and you do need to practice so that you can know how to respond properly in situations. But I think the mistake that people think is that they have to do all the reading and all the training and all the practicing before they jump into ministry, before they do something to see if God can use them, before they try to evangelize, before they try to do something meaningful in their workplace, at their home, in their church, wherever. But instead, you read, you train, you practice because you are doing the thing that God wants you to do, because you've signed up and said, yes, God, I'm going to go ahead and do this thing. I'm going to sign up, I'm going to step out and do the thing that you want me to do. The next spiritual sounding thought that is incorrect is, I'm not called, or as it shows up often, waiting for a sign. There's a guy who did this in the Old Testament. His name was Gideon. He laid out a fleece and asked God to give him some signs so that he could know that God really wanted him to do things. And Gideon tested God twice. What he should have done is just obeyed God from the jump. And that part of his character was revealed because he ended up being a pretty poor leader of the Israelites in the time of the Judges. I think what this phrase and this phrase oftentimes is it's code for, I don't wanna. I'm not called, or I'm waiting for a sign. It's because I actually just don't want to, so I'm hoping that God forces me into doing something. But realistically, there are things that everyone is called to do. You're definitely not called to do nothing and sit around waiting for God to tell you to do something. Everyone is called to do some things, and I think you know what they are, so it's time to start doing them. The third spiritual sounding thought that's actually getting in the way is, it's not the right season. And it sounds extra spiritual when you use the word season. We find ourselves saying things like, I'll do it when. That's the number one way of knowing that you are probably buying into this lie. If you're waiting for the right time and the perfect season to do something, you will never do that thing. The time is never right, because when we're talking about something being right, what we're talking about is we want a time that is convenient, right? So when we say it's not the right season, this is code for it's inconvenient. But you know what else is inconvenient? Let's think about Abraham, who left his father's house, or a guy who had to raise a kid when he was super old, or Moses, who had his comfortable, quiet life as a shepherd confronting one of the largest empires of his day. Or, probably the greatest example, the Son of God putting on flesh and blood and dying for us. All of those are very inconvenient things, but those were the things that God wanted these men to do. And so, it's not the right season is not an excuse to not do the thing that God wants you to do now. I'm not ready is solved by getting ready. I'm not called is by finding your fit. And you do these two things on assignment. You don't wait to have everything lined up perfectly before you start doing things. In fact, the best time to do things, the right season, is now. And if you don't have a ton of extra time, and if you don't have a lot of extra resources, then you use what you have. God is able to take the things that you have in your hands that you're willing to give to him to use for his kingdom, and he will do amazing things. And you will find out that you were more ready than you ever thought you were, and you do have a fit, and you are going to do things in this season. Don't let these wrong spiritual thoughts get in the way of God doing amazing things in your life.